Hi, Walter here from the Black Chair. Today I am in conversation with Ella Ruby. She's a multi-disciplinary artist, a music producer, musician, painter, ceramicist, and she dances. She also is an educator. Let's meet her and see how she reveals her colors in this life. Hi Ella.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're here, and it's been a long time. I have actually seen you. Years, I feel.
Yeah, probably since I lived here.
Yes, that would be,
Potentially.
what, 5, 6 years?
Yeah, something like that. It's been a while. It's good to be back. Yeah.
I do hear tiny bits about you through my daughter, who is either the same age or similar age, and that you are, that Ella is in Melbourne, Ella is not in Melbourne, Ella is here, Ella is there, but I don't really know anything else what you are doing. And I also know that it's important to you, before we even get into the conversation, I know it's very important to you to respect welcome country, as we do in Australia. So I'm very happy for you to do that, if this is what you would like to do.
Yeah, I'd like to pay my respects to the traditional owners of this land, the traditional custodians of this land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, past, present and emerging, and acknowledge that Australia is the last country to sign a treaty for the whole of Australia, the whole of the country, with the traditional, with the First Nations people of this land. So all other countries have signed a treaty, and yeah, I think it's important for us, for people living in Australia, to keep educating themselves and learning about the history of Australia, and also, yeah, the narrative and the lives of First Nations people in Australia. And so yeah, I pay my respects to the traditional people of Naarm or Melbourne. Yeah.
So I like that. I like that you, even so, I assume, I've never asked you that question, but I assume you are not an Indigenous person of Australia.
Well, I'm not a First I don't have a First Nations.
No, that's okay.
In my family.
I
no.
am just wanting to not assume that you don't, because I remember very well my bias, and I had myself when I came to Australia, which is now 35 years ago. I held this belief that Aboriginal people, First Nation people, were black, and that I could recognize them by their color. And I had all sorts of judgments around that, which I wasn't aware of that I even had. And now I understand that color means nothing in Australia. If you are First Nation or if you are not, you can be blonde and blue-eyed, and that this assumption we hold around is a very dangerous place to go and be. And also, the fact that you asked me to bring that up before we started filming reminded me of that I am holding gratitude to people all over the world before me, and who came before me, whose shoulders I stand on, which includes not just the ground I'm walking on here, the ground who got me here to Australia, and that I still can carry on walking, and that is gratitude to people who have come before in all shapes and forms. So I think I have probably broadened my gratitude to more than that it's just custodians of Australia. I wouldn't be without the custodians who have been before me in other parts of the world. So thank you for bringing that to my attention, to voice this, because in none of those recordings we have done so far that has been brought, and this is the beauty of those conversations, because it highlights what's important to the person sitting in the chair you are sitting in, and also speaks to a sign of the time, how you bringing something to me who is so much older and might not even think of it or mightn't even find that important. You sort of remind us all of something.
Yeah, and I guess it is really important, and sometimes people don't know how to talk about difficult, this thing that's going on in Australia and the world, and but it's so important that we talk about it, even if we get it wrong, even if we make a mistake, and it's better for us to speak about, difficult issues and raise awareness, and we can learn them, and then we can, keep working on it. Yeah, it's really important.
And when you say difficult issues, I assume you mean the Black Lives Matter movement at the moment, and gender diversity, and all the subjects which don't go away anymore, which have been pushed down in times gone by, and now they're here.
I guess I'm mostly talking about racism, and I think that's the hardest one for a lot of white people to talk about, because there's a lot of shame and guilt and not knowing how to do it, because we all realize this is something that's so big that people can just kind of put it to the side, but we can't put it to the side. I think I feel really comfortable talking about feminism, and I feel comfortable talking about gender, and I feel comfortable talking about a lot of things. But
and race is hard.
Yeah, I think it can be hard, because it's pretty crazy that it's still going on to the degree that it's going on in our in the country that we live in.
It is crazy. It is crazy and complicated. And I'm, it's nice to hear that you are grappling with it, because I'm grappling with it, and for me, many subjects are uncomfortable because I haven't had much practice to practice it. And it's the politically correct language today, which comes in from many different places, and how to think about it. And it is very difficult often to have a conversation where people don't jump down each other's throat and go, this is ridiculous, this is just stupid, or, what are they complaining about? And we often don't stop enough to go, what is it about? How do I think about it? Or what does it mean? And I feel grateful when, again, somebody has got the guts or the chutzpah to step out and go, like you, and you just say it. This was important to you. You want to, and you're grappling with it, obviously. And you haven't got the answers.
No.
I haven't got the answers. But I would like to understand more. And how do we go about that? What do you think?
To understand more about how to make change, how to make positive change.
And what's my role? What's your role? How are you understanding yourself in that movement? Like, what do you do?
I mean, I feel like I still have so much more that I need to do, but I guess trying to read books, trying to watch videos and hearing people speak about how they're feeling and what they're going through, and just trying to be educated. That's one way. And there's a lot of content out there, especially on Instagram, of people speaking and making videos just saying this is why I'm angry, or this is what we need to do, or this is what you need to understand as a white person. And then so there's that kind of side of things, hearing the narrative. There's some podcasts as well, out there, interviewing Indigenous people and hearing their journey. And then there's also if it's possible to, if there's money to donate it to, legal aid for Indigenous people, or supporting First Nations artists, and to bring money and give money, which is really helpful. And then what else? I mean, I guess like educating as much as you can yourself, rather than asking, you know, like First Nations people, messaging them saying like, oh, can you teach me? You know, because I think that can be like a toll that they're tired of having to keeping on saying these things over and over again. And
so you are saying that the onus is on us to learn about what we perceive to be the other. The onus is to learn myself as much as I can, to find out what it might be like, to understand the past, to understand where they're coming from, what the hurts are, how did we get here, rather than going to a person of color and say, well, why don't you teach me? Is that what you're saying? That it's up to me to find out?
Yeah, so when people say, and they go to a First Nations person and they say, teach me, it's like a toll on them to have to always play that role, and they don't have to do that. It's really up to us, to find the books, find the articles, find the, the information, and not because there's so much out there. There's books and there's so much to go off, so we don't.
There certainly is.
Need to take up their time.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of time and energy.
There certainly is, because what I have found by starting to read more or watch, there's great stuff on Netflix and all sorts of places of docos you can find. It's quite painful. I'm finding it. I'm finding myself watching this, and without a fail, I have tears running down my face, to kind of having this sense of how is it I belong to such a cruel race called the human race, that we do this still to people, regardless if here in Australia or in America, and it doesn't really matter where we go. We are inflicting great pain on a great many of people for great many of reasons, and finding that out, I found, is more confronting by doing my own work than being told by one person, because I feel there's something different about it. There's something different about finding it for myself than being spoon-fed. And I'm wondering also with that though, what does this mean for you, Ella? Because I feel overwhelmed sometimes by all this. And I would like to think I have a capacity developed over the years, and with my life experience and having been through different ages, to have a different way of holding myself and my pain and I still find it really, really painful. And sometimes I wonder, what do you do with all what you have to deal with in this time you're living in?
Yeah, it can be really overwhelming.
Yeah, and what do you do when that happens? How do you look after yourself, or how do you deal with it?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways. I think it's an amalgamation of so many different ways that I have learned how to handle myself and my emotions and my mental state. First of all, I feel like mental health is always the number one priority. I think that's the foundation of everything, and if we can't feel okay in ourselves, then everything else branches off that. So I find, like, really simply just eating well, sleeping well, and being kind to ourselves, like having compassion for myself. And if I'm putting too much pressure on myself to try and be something that I can't be everything, then that just, I find that makes the tower crumble. That makes the internal kind of world just crumble. So gratitude, like when I wake up in the morning, I try and just smile. even if I don't want to, because it just sets off the brain to feel like I can be happy, you know, to be happy is a choice. And then, you know, when it's possible, meditation is so helpful. I have like a very up and down journey with meditation. Some years or some months I can really try and I can do it every day. Other months it's out the door, you know.
So by meditation you mean actually sitting in silence, that type of meditation? Or do you talk about a meditation of walking meditation, being in nature, or do you mean chanting? What kind of meditation are you referring to?
Walking is amazing. I love walking. I love exercise is a huge number one for me. And
so that helps your well-being, your personal well-being.
Oh yeah. I think exercise is one of the number one like saviors of mental health. Exercise just releases all this, it just balances everything in the body, and when the body feels strong and the body feels energized, it brings the energy. So it's just like in the head there's so much going on and there's so many thoughts and we think we can think our way out, but I actually think just like healthy food and exercise and sleep, like they can just level everything. But the meditation that I'm referring to is Vipassana. And that's like, even just Vipassana, the foundation of it is like Anapana, so focusing on the breath just here, just honing in on that spot and feeling the breath coming in, coming out, not changing anything, not trying to slow down the breath, not trying to breathe the breath and calm any tension, just fully observing everything. And then if the mind is focused enough, then also doing a body scan and feeling in like from head to toe all the sensations. But to be honest, where I'm at right now, I can just focus on the breath and I don't do much body scans. But ideally Vipassana is about scanning the body, and it just is the most powerful, I think, modality to bring up the root causes of the struggles that we have. You know, if we deal with anxiety or fear or anger, like it all just brings it up. And if we watch it in Vipassana and we do nothing, it seems to dissipate itself.
It's lovely you bring this as an example, because when I look at it with a Gestalt lens, you know, it is and I guess in many other psychotherapy modalities, it's very much being aware of what goes on in the body and have that phenomenological experience and that feeling of being in touch with the body at all times. So as I sit here now with you, I'm aware where my feet are. I'm aware that my shoulders are tense a little bit, and now I'm kind of like dropping it as I'm saying it. I am aware that I was breathing, as you spoke about the breath, I became aware that my breath is a little bit sort of up here rather than deep breathing down. I'm aware that of my bottom. So even so, I'm not making a point of scanning, because I'm listening to you and being present with you in this moment. At the same time, my whole body is here, and where is my body in this moment? So, and you're saying it goes away, whatever we put attention to, by just letting it be there. My bum is a bit sore, maybe I should shift, but maybe just let it be there, and all of a sudden you don't realize anymore that the bum might be a bit sore. You don't have to do something about it. Is that the way you are describing the meditation?
Yeah. And it's also about noticing, going through systematically, so that all the subtleties as well come up, so that we don't move from a large sensation to a large sensation, and we can hone in our perception of sensations, so that we get more subtle and more subtle. And
So that's the practice. If you practice it, or would be practicing every day, and you have this relationship of up and down, you say you sit and then you don't sit, and you sit and join the human race.
Exactly.
We go in and out of what seems to be helpful, but you know that it is helpful, so it's a tool you call upon if needed.
Yeah, and even I think even 5 minutes, makes a difference. So, I mean, so long as I'm doing something to make sure that I'm staying stable and staying, grounded or.
And how do you know that? How do you know when you're going out of balance? Could we say balance?
Yeah. I think when you might have experienced like really low lows, and I mean, I've experienced really low lows. So once I come out of those lows, I'm like so glad I'm just not down there. And so I think because I have something to compare to, I know when I'm not doing good.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I guess like if I'm feeling my mind is so fast, and I get, I can't think straight, or I can't listen to what people are saying, or I'm just driving and I'm like in my mind, then I know I need to.
So that's a sign.
Yeah,
that you are on a decline.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
a sign. I think like emotional, like if something small happens and I react to it quickly, that can be a sign of just like if my emotions are kind of more on the surface. But that can also be from, the cycle, if I'm close to bleeding, I might not necessarily be in an emotional, mental low. It might just be, this is so natural for us to go up and down anyway. But I think the mind is a big one, the fast mind.
I assume you have a fast mind because you do incredible artwork, and in order to create this, I saw at one stage you had sort of psychedelic, I don't know, what would that be the way to describe it? There was some psychedelic visual stuff you did, and yes? Can we say that?
The inks with the colours?
Yes, there were inks and colours. How would you describe your work? Do you want to speak a bit about your artwork, how you actually, the practice, because you have a visual art practice and a musical art practice. Let's understand a little bit about that.
So my visual practice, or both?
Whatever you would like us to know.
Okay.
Whatever you find the most connected to. And
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I've just always loved creating, and I think I create more from a space of the subconscious. It's very intuitive, and I often don't have a plan. I might have a general idea, but I just kind of go in from the subconscious, and I do kind of this automative. So I'll sing the lyrics, or if I might have written up some music, and then I'll sing over the top, and then afterwards I'll be like, okay, what is this about? And I'll read it and I'll figure it out, kind of like when you have a dream and you wake up and you write down the dream, and then a few months later you look back and you read the dream out and you're like, okay, this is what the dream is about. So I love that, of just letting the subconscious mind come through, and then not having too much. I like having plans. I like knowing what aesthetic I want to create, like I have certain musicians or certain painters that I'm inspired by that I want to draw inspiration from. So I have aesthetics that I like, but at the same time I like to let each piece be born in its own right. Like I see each piece as a child that I'm birthing, and I have my aesthetic that I want to bring to it, like a parent has their own morals that they want to instill in their child, but then at the same time I know that the song or the picture has its own life force that I need to allow. to be as it wants to be.
That's a lovely metaphor. That's a very beautiful metaphor. It's like you were saying that we have as artists, creative people, creators, we create anything. We're creating a conversation right now. And we know that this conversation involves two people, and we have a limitation around it of about 50 minutes. And we want to be respectful and curious and find something out about each other and walk away, hopefully, enriched by our meeting. That would be what you were saying about the values, and we have an idea what we would like that child to be.
Yeah.
But how are we going to be attacked, criticized, or liked or not liked with the content once that goes to air, because it is being heard and seen and valued and judged by people? That is then becomes what we have no control over. We have given birth to this child, and we have given it our best, and we keep supporting it. But once it treads out into the world, as you are, as a human being, I am, we are constantly coming up against judgment, criticism, valuing, devaluing of our work.
It's a big one.
Right?
It's a big one.
And how do you deal with that? Is that something, because it's such a brave thing to do, to put yourself with anything you make, singing, music, going on stage, creating from the subconscious, not really planning it and thinking it through and making it perfect. And then it's born. And then
what?
And then what?
Yeah, it is scary to share with the world. And I guess when I put stuff out, I can be really scared, and there's a lot of things that
You can be.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things, there's a lot of songs on my computer that are 90% there, and I need to do that last 10% and, let my child free and go on their gap year to South America or whatever.
And what do you think? Why are they still on the computer? What is it?
I think there's fear of it being mediocre, it being, there's so many dreams that come along with being a creative, and I think creatives really want to be the best that they can be. So sometimes it's easier to say, I'll finish it later.
So not do it at all.
Not complete it.
Not complete
it and let the child leave the nest, to avoid fear of failure or fear of it just being average is probably the worst. But I think it's important to give our things away and share them with the world, and then go back to working and just go back to the next thing and let go of it.
So do I hear that, are you talking about, when you say the best I can be, does that mean it has to be perfect, that there is some perfection need around that, whatever perfect means?
I do think there is a perfectionist that can stop the creative process, but more just it to be successful, for the songs.
Not to be rejected, not to be disliked.
To be enjoyed, to be enjoyed by lots of people, not to just sit somewhere online not receiving. But I don't even think that's it.
But
I'm not sure exactly what it is. But
what would it be like to be enjoyed by only one person?
You know what? I don't even know if that's it, because I feel like if I got this stuff out, I'd be so glad, and I'd just move on, and
if
it would
it's
be
out,
gone. It would be great. I don't know. Maybe we have to have a Gestalt session sometime and we can figure it out.
Look, Ella, I am, as I'm sitting here, an image comes up for me. And the image what came up, I think it's provoked by your metaphor of you giving birth to babies.
Yeah.
And the metaphor is, it's actually in real life happening at the moment for me, close in my life, that we are having a baby which is not going to be born perfectly, whatever perfectly means, perfect as in with everything a human being is expected to come out. And the immediate reaction is, it's not perfect. So how do we think around this? We seem to live in a world where we expect everywhere around us perfection, that something is supposed to look a certain way, because we have created a world where is not much room for imperfection, where people in wheelchairs, people who are mentally disabled, handicapped, challenged, people who have special needs, blind, deaf. I mean, where is our environment here in where I live? There's nowhere an environment for a blind person. There's no footpath, there's no helping signs. It's a world for perfectly abled persons who see, walk, hear, smell, taste. And everything else gets a label or gets criticized. So I'm wondering about this, hence our conversations here. I could edit them out. Now I'm sure I say politically incorrect words. I'm making blunders because I've lived 61 years on this planet and I have learned a language. English is my second language. I make mistakes. Some of them are totally ignorant. But I don't know what I don't know. And that's where my fear is. Also, I might be judged. And they will be going, Jesus, what's she on about? Now, if I don't hear your song, which is 10% not ready, I'm missing out. You are denying me something.
Yeah, I guess it's, we can take ourselves a bit less seriously. And then...
such an easy sentence to say, isn't it? And so hard to do.
But it feels good in my body when I say it. Yeah. It's actually, there's a lot of pressure when we take ourselves so seriously. Yeah. It's a lot of anxiety. So maybe that's it. Just accepting that, the songs or whatever can come out and maybe they won't be perfect, but I think they'll still be loved. People who are born with disabilities have so much incredible energy to bring to the world, and that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be, born. But
you see, that's the thing with this ability. I feel that my world, I live in, this perfect, apparent looking world, is disabling people who have not got hearing. So it's not they have the disability. I am disabling them to be operating in an environment.
Well, that's it. Like, the world is built for people who walk, who have legs. It's starting to be more built for people who aren't able to walk. But just because someone isn't able to walk doesn't mean that, like, we should live in a world where there's options for both, and because we're prioritizing certain kinds of people, or people that can hear, and that doesn't add up, because there's so many people who, like, what even is normal? So we're prioritizing, and it's not. It doesn't make sense, and I think that there is change happening. Like with the NDIS, there is change, but they they took some money away from the NDIS as well. So there's still so much that we need to fix.
You mentioned the NDIS, and some viewers might not know that, but that's an organization in Australia who supports, it's the National Insurance...
National Disability Insurance Scheme.
That's right, that's
so,
what it is.
Yeah, it
and
gives...
you also work in disability.
Yeah, so I'm a disability support worker. And the National Disability Insurance Scheme gives... provides money for people living with disabilities in Australia to get care and funding to do whatever, anything that someone else can do. That money should be for that. But there's still a lot of there's still a lot of problems, and there's still a lot of stuff that's not going well in that regard.
It's how we embrace the imperfection, and I'm coming back, and I mean imperfection as a metaphor, as a term, the imperfection we feel about ourselves. As each one of us, you feel the imperfection about your music and your songs you are not releasing, they're staying behind. I am aware and notice my imperfection around, there's all sorts of things I could think of. I'm feeling them, but if I buy into it and let myself be stopped by that imperfection, that I guess becomes by the end of the day the important question or hold awareness around that.
Yeah, I mean, because then it's implying that, I think we all have we're all perfect in our imperfection, and none of us are perfect. And I wouldn't want us to be. It would be really bizarre and boring if we were.
Yeah, but we are striving for that.
I think we have so much pressure from the media to live into something that just doesn't exist, and to, look a certain way and to act a certain way, and it's just bullshit, and
we know
it tears us apart.
Yeah, but we know that in our head, but emotionally, it seems there's a disconnect. I know it. I can say it, and still my body or the body seems to react to it. We get dragged down, and we need to do something with it. We develop tools throughout our lives to deal with it.
Yeah.
And as you say, one is meditation, another one. Do you actually write songs? Do you make music when you are going down or are down or coming out? When is the creative process happening for you?
Yeah, it definitely happens when I'm down.
In it. You can actually do it when you are in it.
I do a lot of painting when I'm really, really low, because I find, or I might write on an instrument, but I don't so much do the computer programming side when I'm really, really down, because it's more cognitive, I find, and the painting I find very, the watercolors, it's so flowy and it's quite intuitive and things like that. But then the computer, I find sometimes it's kind of mathematical, sometimes it's a little bit, it takes like an extra step of the brain, and I think it's probably a confidence thing as well. I just feel more at home with the the materials that aren't with the computer. But and then I need to be really like, now I'm going to go on the computer and I'm going to do this. Like, I need that conviction to do that process.
So that would be the next step, when you're feeling better, when you feel you have energy to do something, to go to the computer. Yeah, like if I'm just in my day-to-day, like if I'm not having like a really crazy meltdown or something, I can, I like going on and doing production on the computer. But I find so much in my life, it flows in and out. Like right now I'm working a lot, so I'm not spending heaps of time on the computer. I find that my creative energy is going into
more into work, and I do bring music into that, which is really exciting and special and a whole new ballpark to figure out.
Oh, your eyes just light up when you say that. So you are saying, with being a support worker, you actually can take your instruments and you taking that is part of your support work. And you're creating in that way.
Yeah, so I guess it was an intention to be able to match up with clients that enjoy creativity as much as me, and I found some amazing people that want to do music or mostly music right now, and it's super cool and interesting, and I have so much to learn, but it's cool.
So there, Ella Ruby music can be found on YouTube, right?
SoundCloud.
There would be some stuff up there if people are interested to listen to it.
Yeah, songs and things.
It's interesting when you said with the creative process, like there's one part, the creative process, you go when you are down, you're using it to help yourself when you're in it.
Yeah.
And now you are doing also creative process, and that is not necessary to help yourself, it's just you are in it, what makes your eyes sparkle. It energizes you.
Yeah.
What's happening now. Is that right? Would I see that the right way? Right now, what you're doing with your support work and how you are bringing music to you're allowed to have in your work.
Yeah, like I guess I'm at a point in my life right now where I'm really enjoying supporting other people to be creative, and it's always been both. I think, as an artist you want to Julia Cameron says this. She's like, as an artist we have a duty to speak our name well and also to teach other people to speak their name well, and I love just supporting other people to be creative, especially, it's so much about, she says so much about audacity. We can have talent, sure, but we need that audacity and that confidence to just say, yeah, I'm an artist. And everyone's an artist. It's just when they're going to decide, give themselves the permission to do it. And then I just love seeing people just in a space just getting creative, and at first they said, oh, I'm not a drawer, and then they'll start drawing. I'm not a rapper, and they'll start rapping. I'm not I can't do this, and then they do, and it's just it's the best feeling.
I think you are speaking to something very important, the audacity, and that everyone is an artist. Totally, I think I hear you, and I would second that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But the important part I think you're speaking to is also the importance of giving to the other, to someone else than yourself, and that within that, this is an act of happiness, the act of kindness, that paying forward, that we find meaning and fulfillment by doing that.
Yeah.
And that's the energizing part, rather than playing for ourselves, making my record, playing it for myself.
Yeah.
And hoping that I get lots of likes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and that can get, if that takes off, that's great. And I think even if it doesn't take off, we need to support our inner artist and our inner child, because otherwise that child's going to be so upset. But yeah, we all want a purpose in our community. I think we want a role to bring something to the community that we're in, so that they can thrive. And we have, as a creative person, we have these skills, and just as much as we need to share the gifts of our creations, we also have, maybe it's not a responsibility. I don't think every creative is necessarily going to be good as a teacher, but if we can, then we should, right?
I believe you do teaching. Like you also teach. I mean, you're not a teacher as in high school teacher, primary school teacher, the conventional, but you do teach music and art?
So yeah, like over the years I've done different teaching jobs through music or art classes, and right now we're actually in our 12th week. I've been facilitating. So I spoke about Julia Cameron, and she wrote a book called The Artist's Way. Have you read it?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's
a book from the 70s.
80s, yeah.
80s, yeah, early 80s.
Yeah, and it's still relevant.
Totally.
So we're in our 12th week, and I've been facilitating that, and it's been amazing. I'd love to hear your experience of the book. But yeah, we meet up on Zoom once a week, and we talk about it, and that, you know,
and
I wasn't. There's 9 of us, so we are. They're mostly my friends, and then there's a couple of people that the other people joined up, so just mutual friends. And we've been reading the book, and it's such a special way to get in touch with creativity, figure out blocks.
And it's a practice, isn't it? Also a weekly practice. You read a part, you meet weekly, you do weekly exercises. Not unlike meditation, which seems like we're circling around that things is a practice, period. Doesn't matter what we do in life. You want to have a great heartbeat, we probably have to run up and down the stairs or go for jogs to get cardio. If we want a flat stomach, we have to do sit-ups. If we want a healthy mind, we have to find ways of, you have identified, breathing, sitting, artist's way, painting, sharing, giving your music to others. It seems like it's a practice, and that is something maybe what I have found over the years was the hardest thing for me to accept, that it ain't happening without putting in the work. You're not going to play and sing well if you don't put in the work. You are not going to learn a computer program well if you don't put in the work. And we won't emotionally feel stable if we don't do the work.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, it's interesting. I think like in my younger years, my younger years makes me sound like
look,
we all have our chapters.
Exactly, totally, and they keep changing. You know, and totally, I think this is so important to say that as a younger self of yourself, there will always be a younger self as you move on. So, what about in your younger years?
Well, you know, that quick fix, I guess, that idea, I think it was easier to dream and think, okay, one day, you know, I'm going to be this amazing musician, daydream about it. Or, well, what I was going to talk about really was just like psychedelics and how we can, you know, catapult ourselves into these realizations about the world through psychedelics, and I do and you know, experience certain things through drugs, and I do think they definitely have their place. But I feel like the day-to-day practices, for me anyway, I feel like is a great way to connect with the world and to have this slowly carving away of the things that we care about, and that feels really resonant for me. And I think like everyone has their own way that they need to interact with the world, and some people love that kind of hard hitting, just like, you know, let's take 3 tabs of acid and meet, you know, the little elf people and they'll tell us, you know, the answers or something, and sometimes that's really helpful to open up worlds like that. But
and now you are going to a subject where I would love to go, and we are so out of time. And that has to become another day, because I know so little about drugs. I am so curious about it. I really want to understand. I think we as a society doing far too, I don't know, maybe as a society, but I keep it with myself, personal. I, for myself, have not experimented, know so little, can really not talk informed, but I'm so curious, and I know psychologically it has been used. There's talk about bringing actually drugs back into psychological treatments, so that is a whole other conversation, and I'm afraid I have to say thank you, and we have to keep that one for some other time.
Thank you for having me, Valtra. So nice to chat.
Same, totally.
Yeah.
And that's it.